All right, we're going to get started with our presenters today. Thank you for coming out. Hopefully you enjoyed the pizza and the beer. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jose Saldana. So I run the Fresno SOLIDWORKS Users Group Network. So happy to give back to the community and it's all about networking and helping each other out. Our mission is just to teach others and help others in the community. So thank you again for being out here. We do have some special guests with us today. Brad and Adam that are visiting from the East Coast. So Matthew Hall from the Soul Systems. They're in Virginia, Tennessee, and Virginia. And they'll be talking more about themselves and what they do. And IronSWUG, right? It's a tour, it's the 4th annual tour. It's always been in the East Coast, and this is the first year that it's in the West Coast. So we started on Monday in San Francisco, had a meeting there for the SOLIDWORKS Users Group in San Francisco. Sacramento on Tuesday, today here in Fresno, tomorrow it's LA, and we end on Friday in Las Vegas. So it's a busy week, but we're happy to do this. And then we've got a lot of people that are online connecting from like many other parts of the world. So thanks to those that are connected on Zoom as well. At this point, I'm just going to hand it over briefly to Matthew Hall. He can tell us a little bit about himself and what he does, and then we'll hand it over to who's going for Adam or Brad? Adam. All right. So, all right.
Kind of hold this.
You get to hold it.
Yeah, I'll just hold it.
Stay behind the speaker.
Yep. Get out of the way of the screen. Block that. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. Your time is very precious, and we're grateful we're here. And thanks for the brewery for hosting us here and Jose organizing everything. My name is Matthew Hall. I'm with the SOLIDWORKS brand of Dassault Systems. I am in the team called User Advocacy, and my day job is taking care of our online digital communities. My colleague, Dan Wagner, who runs the SOLIDWORKS User Group Network program for us, unfortunately just couldn't be here, so I took one for the team and came to the brewery. So it's a tough thing, so got to do it. Sorry, Dan, if you're out there listening. And so on the screen here, we'll show a few QR codes here for you. You can snap a picture or come up to me later if you want to get it. But this is pointing you to our community, our SWUG group on our platform. And really, we encourage you to get there, join, and discover a group around you, connect with highly technical people like yourselves, network, build your expertise, share your knowledge with others. And if you want to go to the next screen. That's our main platform for the SOLIDWORKS User Group Network, or we say SWUGing. On this next screen, we're playing, users can be everywhere. We being Dassault Systems, have our own platform called 3D Swim, which is on the furthest left. That is hosted by us, and you can go there and you can ask questions, get answers. It's another technical resource. If you're stuck with something SOLIDWORKS, we have like a couple thousand unique visitors coming there every day, asking questions, answering, sharing their information or knowledge, sharing their frustrations with us as well. So we have brand experts from the brand, from SOLIDWORKS, they're lurking, engaging, answering questions. So it's a great place to go and engage with other experts around the world. Additionally, we have a LinkedIn group if you're looking to professionally network with people from around the world. On LinkedIn, many of you maybe are already on LinkedIn. Feel free to join that group. We share a little bit there from events that are happening, maybe some tips and tricks. The next one over, we started to dabble in Discord because our users, like I said, are everywhere. And there's these cool young cats on Discord that are doing things, and we're trying to connect with them there as well. Our Discord server, to be transparent, is more focused around makers. And we're going to have a makers event next week where we're doing a collaborative build with anyone that wants to join. And I got a fly wanting to join me. So it's going to be 12 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday, I think. It's going to be the second of a 3-part collaborative build where you can get on, join the stage, share what you think about this design, and they're going to eventually build something that's really accessible that you can take home, design or build it on your own. And the last QR code that I'll mention is we're also on WhatsApp because so many users around the world use WhatsApp. We have a strong presence in India, Southeast Asia, Europe, even in America. So it's a great place to quickly come and ask questions, maybe network with other people and have some fun. So they all serve some different purposes. Ours on the furthest left is the one platform you can go to and share your models and manipulate them, play with them in 3D. So feel free to check them out, take a snap of any of the QR codes, and I'll be around for the rest of the evening. So again, thank you for coming, and I'll hand it over to Bradham, as we call them. There you go. Thank you.
All righty, here we go. Little higher. How's that? A little bit better? All right. So just to start off with, I was going to go right into my presentation, but instead, since Jose, let me move that down just this week. So since Jose was mentioning about, this being the 4th annual, being East Coast, I figured I'd just jump into that real quick for a second. Let's look at that. So you can find anything about us here on IronSWUG.com. So just look at IronSWUG.com, right? This is the tour we're doing this year. You can go in here and click on any of these links to find out what that location is going to be offering, what we're doing there, what time it starts, all that good stuff. Yes, there is going to be a free Z book given away this week during the ride, as well as a 3D Connection Enterprise with a it's 3D Connection Enterprise bundle kit, so it's going to have the mouse and stuff with it. So stay tuned for that. You'll find out about it at the end. You got a lot of good stuff you can see here. We do have the stuff that Matt was just talking about with the SWUG community and the LinkedIn stuff. I want to jump over to looking back, because Jose mentioned, we've been on the East Coast. This is everywhere we've done so far in the last few years. We've been riding like crazy and presenting like crazy. And it's just a week full of that, right? Ride, present, sleep, and do it all over again the next day. This also has some looking back stuff on videos we've done throughout the years. Any of the presentations you've seen throughout the years or want to go back and look at, those are on our YouTube channel, but you can get to our YouTube channel from here. It's just IronSWUG on our YouTube channel there. So you can go back and rewatch any of those videos you want to. And then this is our track for this year. We will get to our sponsors here in a little bit, but we have some great sponsors, and you'll see some more about that stuff in the intermission between myself and Brad. I am Adam. This is Brad. Together, we are Bradham. All right, let's jump into the presentation. All right, so IronSWUG 2025. This is our day 3. Today, we're going to be talking about mastering metadata. Kind of what is metadata? What are you going to use it for? Where can it be plugged in, that kind of stuff. Just a little fun phrase I put there was just Tab-tastic templates for manual Mayhem to master data master. Metadata master. Yeah, I'll get that tongue tied out in a minute. So who am I? Again, my name is Adam Ebernickel. I am a project designer in the product engineering department of Altec Industries. You can kind of see what we do up there. It's digger derricks, bucket trucks, tree care, anything that's got anything to do with the utility company, that's probably us. And if you haven't heard about us, now that I told you Altec, you're going to go out and see Altec everywhere. It's kind of like when you buy a car, you just see that car everywhere after you buy it. It's the same thing. PG&E, that's one of our customers out here. So you'll see Altec all over their stuff. Adjunct, I do adjunct stuff there in the applied engineering department at Mayhem Community College. Do about 3 classes a semester with that. Just something I enjoy doing, giving back. I've been doing all this stuff for over 10 years, just kind of plugged in. So won't give you any dates, just over 10 years for all this. Old man, yeah. So I do lead the Western North Carolina Asheville SOLIDWORKS user group. We like to say that is the microbrewery capital of the world. So
Fight word.
I was looking for a rep here to look at me cross-eyed. All right, so then from that, I became a SWUG committee member around 2020, doing the Southeast region. So any of the SWUG groups, kind of like what Jose Saldana is doing on the West Coast. Brad does it in Mid-Atlantic. I'm the Southeast, so Mississippi, Tennessee through the Caribbean, as well as Altec seen such a positive thing within the SWUG group that we brought it in-house, right? We got 11 different groups inside of Altec across the U.S., and I manage the ones inside of Altec. SWUG Champion, this is my plug for Matt Clegg. Every April, they do an enrollment on that. It's kind of like SWUGing on a personal level, right? So you want to be a little bit more personal with your SWUGing stuff and go out and be in the community a little bit more on that personal level. That's what that's for. But every April they do enrollment. You do probably need a sponsor. It will help. And then also on top of that, you do have to have a CSWP as well. The last thing on this slide is certified SolidWorks expert as well. So, all right. So we're going to look at some key takeaways here. I'll try not to keep you guys too much on this presentation. I know I ran over a little bit earlier. I'll be a little bit more mindful of the time this time. But some key takeaways are just going to be streamlining your workflow, right? Automate those property inputs and reduce repetitive tasks and things like that, right? Also being able to standardize your data, ensure consistency across parts, assemblies, and drawings. When I say that, does anybody in here ever go looking for a part and the part you're looking for, you eventually find it and it has nothing to do with the description you thought it should be? Yeah, that's a little troubleshooting sometimes, right? Trying to figure that stuff out. So this is going to help with that. And also being able to work smarter and not harder. Build it once, reuse it everywhere, be faster and cleaner and get better results. And then if you look at this little picture here with the treasure chest and the map, you see the data versus metadata. Now keep that image in mind. On the next slide at the end of it, I'll kind of elaborate on that just a little bit more. Let me back up real quick. There we go. Yeah, streamline your workflow, standardize your data, work smarter, not harder. There's that image. I'm just saying, keep a mental image up for just a second. In the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about that data versus metadata, the treasure chest versus the map. So what is metadata? Well, metadata is data that describes other data, right? So data that describes other data. That makes sense, I think, right? A little bit of a circular reference there. But it basically tells you what the file is, who created it, and when they did it. So it can be used in a lot of different places. You can also have it used to organize, searching, automating workflows, and different things like that. It can be used in the bill of materials. It can be used for drawing title blocks. It can be used even within the PDM data cards. I'm not going too much into the PDM side of things, so I'm not going to talk a lot about the PDM, or probably none about the PDM data cards. I'm just going to stay within the SolidWorks realm of things here. All right, so in SolidWorks, this includes properties like part numbers, descriptions, material, revisions, and even who did it, the author. And sometimes, and you'll see here in a minute, not only the author, but who messed with my stuff after I did, right? So being able to see that stuff too. All right, so this is what I was telling you to keep that mental image about, because if your design is telling the story, that means your metadata is the table of contents. So if you think about that image a minute ago, you got the treasure chest, you got the map. The treasure chest is your model. That is the end goal, right? That's the goal we want. The metadata, that map or the table of contents, is just illustrating the descriptions and things about the properties about that part. So it's kind of like leading us or telling us the things about it. All right, so let's look at some of these properties here. So what are these properties and where are they? They're everywhere, not even just in SolidWorks, they're everywhere. We'll go in and look at a file here in just a second, but you can see different ways of getting to it. And we'll jump into SolidWorks and look at that in just a second. But you can see how it's doing things like in SolidWorks, showing creation dates, save dates, custom properties, adding weights, and different stuff like that. Let me jump over. I want to grab File Explorer. Get the right one. I think this is the one I want right here. PowerPoints, go IronSWUG. Let's look at this stuff right here. So I'm just going to pull up mastering metadata. When I right click on that field or select that item and a right click, I can come on down and look at properties, right? This is not a SolidWorks file. It still has metadata. It still has information about that file directing us things about it. So if we look at the properties on this, we can see things like, okay, where is this location, how big it is, the date it was created, when it was modified. We've got other details. We can even look in here, and there's some things I didn't even realize that PowerPoint did, like it keeps track of revision numbers. I didn't know that. I went in and modified this slide, I think last night, and opened it this morning and seen, oh, I got a revision number too. Didn't know PowerPoint did that. But you got other things you can look down through here. You can see how your word count is, file size again, the date created and all that stuff. So that's just the metadata for this file, right? So we'll go ahead and close that. And we'll contrast that with what we're seeing in some of the SOLIDWORKS stuff, right? So if you look at the SOLIDWORKS stuff, just on this slide before we jump into SOLIDWORKS, we can see, you know, this is maybe a property tab for that. But let's look at SOLIDWORKS and just look at the properties. So we looked at it in the slide, but the one way you can get to the properties in the file, besides going to Windows Explorer, is you can hit File, come down to Properties, and here's your properties, right? Everybody, yes. That should be good. Yep. All right, so this is all this metadata in here, the file properties that live inside SOLIDWORKS. I'm going to come down through here and actually clear this. I'm going to delete all these, just so you can see that they're clean, because we're going to come back and use this file again here in a second. So now you guys all are witness to that this is clean. There's no data, nothing in there, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And that's one way to get to it. The easiest way to get to those file properties is going to be at the top in the middle. And there they are again. We see them again, right? So we'll close that. And that's important. That's really important. But let's jump back to SOLIDWORKS, or to our PowerPoint again. Jump down one slide. And wouldn't it be nice to know before you open? Does anybody in here open a SOLIDWORKS file and sit there and twiddle your thumbs for a few minutes, wondering if it's going to take a bit of time, and I should probably go use the bathroom, call my buddy because I left my dog out, and then go grab a cup of coffee before I get back to my seat? All right? Wouldn't it be nice to know that before you open the file? Well, you can do that. So if you come in here, let's jump ahead a few clicks. If you come in here and you look at this top section in the system options, go to General and check this little box right here, Show Thumbnail Graphics in Windows Explorer. Now, you see that? I'm going to back up real quick right here. Now, I'm looking at the thumbnail image here. I can just hover over one of these files, and I can see, okay, and grab my old man glasses. Hold on one second. All right. So I can see that it was last saved by me, AZ Ebernickel, which is just my shortened name like we all usually have. It's got the description. It tells me that it's on revision A. There's 2 sheets. It tells me the file size. And last time it opened, it took 15 seconds. Wouldn't it be nice to know if last time it opened, it took 5 minutes? So you can probably time yourself on what you got to do and get back to your desk. Be nice, right? So there's one tip. You can also do it within just the detail list, the detail view or the list view inside of Windows File Explorer 2. If you right click along the cross of the top of your columns, you can pull up what details to show and then select whether you want the last saved data, the last open time. You can select what you want to see, and then by moving them up and down, you could actually tell where they're at. So right here, you can see the very first one I've got is SOLIDWORKS open time. So now I know how long it's going to take to open that file as soon as I open Windows File Explorer. Pretty nice. Let's go ahead and jump up here. But what if there was a way to standardize your descriptions across all your parts and assemblies, right? So that way, when we go back to that original problem we talked about at the beginning of looking for a file and never being able to find the right file because the description's not right, or it's something obscure that you would never think of, right? Now, I know AI is going to come in and help us a lot with this in the future too. I guarantee it. But also, wouldn't it, you could be able to eliminate those repetitive properties entries for good. You don't have to sit there and try and figure out, or have maybe different users saying, I think this is this, or this person thinks this is this, and we can make those and eliminate the repetitiveness of it. How about, yeah, your team ever guessed what field to put in what? Just like I said, right? I mean, do I call this an angle? Do I call it structural steel? What do I call this, right? So this will help. What if you can make your file data a little more clean, a little more consistent and automatic? It would also help you save time on drawings by linking those properties directly. So no longer having to fill things out in your print as much either. So you can with the property tab builder. A lot of people don't realize what the property tab builder has even seen it. It's a little different, and we'll talk about that within within the difference between SolidWorks and SolidWorks Connected. Trying to find it inside of SolidWorks is a little bit easier. You can actually just hit your start menu and start typing property tab builder and it'll pop up. You click it and go right into it. There's a couple other places in SolidWorks which is similar to SolidWorks Connected. In SolidWorks Connected, I noticed it did not download a file, a property tab builder in that instance. So I'll show you another way to get to that. But before we do, I just want to talk about what is the property tab builder and give you a little bit of an understanding on how it functions before we jump in and actually try and illustrate that. All right, so this is the property tab builder right here. So if you go down to your start menu, if you're on your regular SolidWorks and you type in property tab builder, open it up, this is what you're going to see. But what does this mean? How does it work? Well, on the left side is going to be your control elements area, right? So this is all those different functions that you want to put in. You want to tell somebody, hey, I want to put text here. I want to put a date here. I want to put whatever, a list of stuff here, whatever you want to do. That's the control element side. You can't do anything with them on the left side. What you do is you drag them into the center area, into the properties area, the custom properties area. This is where you're going to manipulate those at. We'll get into a little bit more detail on how that works because you got to kind of do it in a certain way. And then on the right side is where you control those elements from the custom properties area, right? So you drag the elements to the middle, and then on the right side, you control those elements. And we'll look at that some more here in just a second. So let's jump into SolidWorks and first start talking about this property tab builder. And where is it? What do we do with it? Well, because I've already used it, it's going to look a little different. If you've never used it, sometimes it looks, just has a button there. But it's over in your task pane on the right side of your graphics viewing area. So I'll open that up. And typically it's going to have a button. If you've never used it, just sitting right here. Especially if you don't have anything in your templates folder where the stuff goes. But once you have stuff built, it'll have a drop down. You can click into it and pick the one you want. It'll stay with that part as well. But to get to it, once you've already done that, you have to click this little settings button. You can change your property template here, or you can just open your property tab builder. Okay. So this is your property tab builder. There's a few things that's got to go on here. Let's start with the first thing you should probably do, because these are going to be like templates. Just like if anybody, does anybody use drawing templates, I hope? Hope nobody's ever recreating their drawings every time. Good. Okay, so this is going to be kind of like drawing templates. So that way you can take it, you save it in place, and it's going to be kind of environmental specific as well. So you'll save them back and be able to use them that way. But the first thing you got to do is tell it, what are you using it for? What environment? So is that going to be a part, an assembly, a drawing, or a weldment, right? What are you going to use it in? In this example, we'll just go part. They're all very similar. It's just what environment they're going to open up for you in. The first thing you got to do, and they go ahead and default it for you, they put that group box in there. You have to have a group box for your elements. That's the little caveat I was telling you about. You got to have a group box for your elements. Once you got the group box in there, then you can start loading these elements into that group box. But what I like to do with the group box is give it a little bit more love, right? I want to love on that group box a little bit. I want to say, what is that group box's functionality going to be? Well, I think this one's probably going to be for part information, right? So I'm going to rename that part info. There we go. Part info. We got it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a text box and I'm going to drop it in there. And my first text box is going to be part number. That makes sense, right? The first thing we want to know about in our properties is what the part number is. Probably the same thing we want to put on our print too. We want our print to know what the part number is. But do we really want our users to always have to type that part number in? That part number probably lives on the file name, right? Typically our file name is the part number. So let's work with that. Okay, so it's going to be text. And I want it to be file name. If you see it before me, let me know.
That's the file name.
You see it right there. Okay, so it's going to be file name, right? And again, I don't want them fat fingering stuff and putting wrong numbers in by mistake, because we know we all do it, right? Duplicating data is our worst enemy. So I'm going to just collect read only. I only want them to see it. I don't want them to input in that field. And what this is going to do is, because I put SW file name, that's pulling kind of from the API of what SolidWorks is and going out and saying, okay, that file name is X. This is always going to be that, right? Now, one more caveat we got to look at in these elements. So this is very important, is the configurations. I can show you that when we get back into the part itself. But when you get into your properties, you're going to have your custom properties on the middle tab. You got file properties, custom properties, and then you have configuration on the last tab. The custom properties is going to say everything that's in that print. So if you got like a hydraulic cylinder that's extended or retracted and two different configurations, you don't want two different file names for that. So you don't have to have two different property sets for that. So that's going to be in one. You want all those to be the same. Okay. The other one's going to be your configuration specific file properties. So that's if you're doing like design table stuff where you may have 7 different angles at different lengths, right? And when you have those 7 different angles, you are going to want different file properties for those because they're different parts. They're actually different parts. And that's what this configuration area does. This is going to be only for that one instance of that configuration. But in this example, I don't have a bunch of iterations. So I'm just going to say I want it for everything that's in that file. So that way we're not doing it per configuration. Okay. So this is what you got to do for that. All right. So the next thing I'm going to put in is, let's do another text box, put it down below. First text box. Hold on. We got to change that name. Part number. Give that love. Give it love, right? This is stuff that may take you time to build it first. It's not going to take a ton of time, but you're going to reap the rewards from this. It's like planting a fruit tree out back and you just get hungry during the summer, you go out and pick an orange, right? Same thing. So we're going to do the text box for this one. And we're going to say that's the description. Get my fat finger again, fat fingers. That's what I said. All right. So that's going to be your description. We'll come out of that. We'll leave that open because we want to give them maybe a little bit of an illustration on that stuff, right? Well, I didn't save it, but it's all good. We'll keep moving on. We got our description here. They can type into that. We want that to be all configurations. And then we can keep coming on down. We can even do a text box right here. And we'll change that from text to date. And this is going to be the drawing date. Yeah. That's going to be your drawing date, right? And what's going to be cool about this one, and you'll see it when I open it up in the file, is it allows the user to put in the date manually if they want to, but we can also eliminate the fat fingering for that too, and actually give them a little calendar to pick the date. How nice is that? I don't have to type in what? 6 digits and 2 dashes or slashes or whatever you want to do. That's reducing my count of my digits, right? So we'll do that. We're going to get into the list group. So all these, you got the group box, you got all these different elements you can throw in here. You got radial buttons you can pick. So if you want to change things and give a list of radial buttons for them to pick through, you can do that as well. This list option here, we'll throw it in just for a second, just so you can see that. And you can break this up and throw more group boxes in here too. This list option, you can use it with an Excel file, which I'll get into here in a minute when we talk about the list group. But we'll just go with text for now, or list for now, actually. And we can say, I don't know, that's going to be, I don't know, I'll use Altec, SOLIDWORKS, right? And I can build this list out. Now, list group is the only kind of element that you pull in that does not need a group box. And that's because it already has its own group box in it, right? Just basically set this up inside of its own group. So when we pull that down, right, we see how it's set up, and we can set these things as expandable, collapsible. So that way when the user goes to use it, that list is either expanded or collapsed as soon as they do it, right? And we can set that by default. Then we can come in and notice it has to be a file, an Excel file type. So we go in and we search the file type, the file where it's living when we build that Excel file type. I'll show you one here in just 1 second after we close this. Once you select that file type, then you put in the range of the data. So if you're used to Excel, you know, like if you're doing like the A column, it's sum of all A, or you use BC, and you can kind of see, it gives you a little example. So sheet 1 in parentheses, A1 colon A5, that's basically giving that range for that section in that sheet. So that just lets it know where that data is to pull the information from. All right, so let's jump out of here. I have one that's already set up. I'm going to open it just real quick, just to kind of show you a full-fledged one set up for you. This is one I just created for this presentation, just to kind of show you what I did with it. Kind of fleshed it out a little bit more. I got part number, that's gonna be your file name. I threw weight in here. We all need to know the weight of the drawing. Do we want somebody to have to go to the evaluate tab, get the mass every time and plug that in? I don't want to. Do you want to? So we could do that, and I selected that as a read-only option as well. I've got a list group here. This list group, I'm gonna show you the Excel file that I put in there. But it's basically for material, so we can know what kind of material is there and what the process might be behind it. Also, this last box, this is really cool. So let's say you have this selection here, and I've got it listed as purchase part. And the reason being is maybe we have this part that we created and we can't manufacture it. Well, if we can't manufacture it, we click the yes button. If the yes button, and you can see I have it defaulted, if we come here and click the yes button, I have it defaulted for the value to come up, and they have to select yes for what to happen. And it's defaulted as unchecked because most everything we're going to do, we're going to make in-house. But the minute they check that, it activates those extra options, right? And you do that by kind of setting up this. You say, okay, I named it purchase part. I want it to be defaulted unchecked. If they check yes, it's gonna pull up this information, and the value is going to be yes and no. We come down, if yes is checked, then we have these different options. Now I can delete this option and I can move it down to the no. So that way, if the no is selected, that's what shows up. But I don't want that under no. I don't need anything under no. If no is selected or is not checked, for example, then it's not going to do anything. It's just going to stay like it is. So I'm going to put that back in there. I'm going to close that guy. I don't want to save it. Hello? Yes, I do want to. Okay. All right. So we're looking at this part. We already verified. I'm gonna pull this up real quick. We already verified nothing's in here. Here's the configuration specific stuff I was talking about. I do want to mention this summary tab real quick. That's more file property tab, I guess you could say. When I went troubleshooting with people, this is one place I'll go. SolidWorks does a lot of updates, a lot of feature enhancements, and they do it for our benefit because it's usually things that we're trying to get better or make work better for us. And throughout those times, sometimes the architecture of what's happening gets changed. Give you a prime example, sheet metal in 2016 was a major architecture overhaul for SolidWorks, right? And so every now and again, if I get a user that comes across with a sheet metal issue, first thing I'll say is, okay, that looks a little funny. Let's go check your graphics driver. That's going to be my first look. If the graphics driver is good, I'm going to say, okay, let's go here and let's look, because we talked about this just in real quick passing a minute ago. But I can see here on the summary tab that this was last saved on June 18th of 2025. And it was by me in SolidWorks 2025. But it was created Wednesday, February 5th, 2020 is when the creation date was. And so sometimes when I see an issue with the file, I'm seeing that it's old. I'm seeing files that are 2009 that have been copied over for so long that architecture change has caused some issues with it. And sometimes you got to go get back and either redo some of those features or kind of suppress and unsuppress them to wake SolidWorks up to this new version and say, okay, I'm alive again. The biggest thing I found with the architecture update from 2016 is if you did a cutout on a face of a flange and you did a collinear along the edge of the bend, right down at the bottom, so it lined up with the bend and cut through the bend, that was causing issues for whatever reason. You go in, you look at it, you undo it, you redo it, it worked. So it's just something with the architecture there. So this is a good place to go for that. But real quick, before we jump into actually doing the stuff in here, I do want to show you this spreadsheet. And talk just a little bit through the spreadsheet. So in the spreadsheet, you can see how it's set up. You have to kind of think a little bit of a chess move, few heads, right? Because you're trying to see, okay, what's the end of my goal here? Which I'm basically trying to illustrate the material, if it needs painted or not, and what that post process is going to look like, right? If I had another process after that, I probably need to look at how many of those there are, because for each one of these processes, you're going to need an illustration of a material or whatever that first column is to be the same. Because it's going to say if you pick steel, it goes through all these different options. So if I pick steel, it eliminates aluminum options and it says, okay, now you have yes and no. All right, because they're the same, it sees them as the same. So then I'm picking yes and no, and then it defaults. So if I pick no, it's going to eliminate the yes stuff and just go to the post processes for no, right? And that's how it's going to work through. And we'll see that and play in a minute. I did a small little preview of this for the Sinclair group. They enjoyed it as well. However, this broke on me and I didn't have time to troubleshoot it. I troubleshooted it within 5 minutes here before we started up and got it working again. It's just, I moved this data from one computer to another and the files didn't link up exactly right, but we got it good. So we're going to minimize this down. Now we're going to look at how to use it. And we're going to come in here, hit the drop down. This is the one we created. As soon as we create that and click it, it pulls that information. So now I don't have to go into the properties. I don't have to fill the information out there. I've got the information here. We've got the part number. This is the one we said we wanted read only. We don't want them to mess with it. You look to the right, tip plate, because it's pulling the file name. That's correct. Now we can add a description. So we'll say test. We can say drawn by AZE. So we'll use my stuff for that. Should probably be using caps. Let's go down to date. Now date, I can type that in manually if I really want to, but I don't really want to add extra mechanics to what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna hit the drop down and say it's today, right? That's pretty nice and convenient. Then that weight that we was looking for, we don't want people typing that in either. It's living right here, so it's almost 9 pounds. Then we can come in and select the material, whether it's steel or aluminum. We'll say steel. Then we can say if it's painted or not. We'll say no. And then we can say what process is going to happen after that. We'll say we're going to polish it. And then is it a purchase part or not, right? If it's a purchase part, we select yes. And then we can go in and look at that list that we have from that. Who's it from? Do we only want to allow our people to use items from certain vendors? Well, here's your chance to do that, right? You can say only use stuff from Fastenal, Trimec, Go Engineer, Hawk Ridge, or McMaster-Carr, right? Those are who we want you to use. So don't use anybody outside of that. So we'll say that's McMaster-Carr. We'll say the part number is 1234 because now we want the supplier part number. So when our purchasing team goes to look at our print or wherever we put that information, they can grab that metadata and go out and purchase that part from you. And they don't have to have the phone call. You don't have to have that conversation. It's there. It lives there, right? Once that's done, we're going to hit apply. Once we hit apply, we can come back and we can look at that file properties again. And everything's in there. Everything we wanted in there. And that's so much easier, right? So we'll close that. And that's not the end all be all, right? What do we do with that data now? Well, let's make sure we're utilizing it in the right aspect and put it in our drawing. Now, because I'm using a 3D connection mouse, just a couple of cool things. If you don't know about mouse gestures, they live on your mouse, right mouse button, kind of hover, click around them. But also 3D Connection offers a radial menu too, to where you can actually click the button and have even more mouse gestures. That's pretty nice. But you can set the buttons to do certain things. Like right now, I'm opening a print and I didn't click anything. Pretty nice, right? 3D Connection, go ahead. Again, at the end, you'll have an option to win some of that stuff. But in here, at the bottom in the title block, I've emptied all this out, so there's nothing in here. Some people will still go in and fill that out manually with text. I advise not to do that because it's more room for error. But you can go in just like you do when you make your drawing templates and right-click, edit sheet. Come in here. Usually there kind of will be a text box if you're using some out-of-the-box stuff. But if there's not, it's fine. You did your own thing. You can just hit note, grab a note, stick it there. Say enter, don't say enter, say click off. There it goes. It's living there. I can drag that, put it where I want to. So let's say I'm going to drag it. I'm going to do drawn. Let's do drawn, right? Drag it right down here into that title block. Then once I drag it, the title block is still selected. So I can come over here and do link properties. Linking properties has a couple of features in here. Right now it's select a current document. So that means it's going to pull whatever file property metadata is from the drawing. Some people like to use that for like maybe if it was a check by or any of those kind of aspects, they might do that in the drawing. I like to do everything from the model myself because in the future, I feel like MBD is going to be a good thing because its model is master and you don't have to have drawings to have duplicate data that cause issues with. Just a small brain thing of mine. So that's for drawing, but you can click here and do model found here. If you do model found here, you've got two different options to select, and that's drawing view, specified, and sheet properties. We'll talk about that and get a little bit more in detail with that in a second. The next one's going to be selected component or other drawing views. That's so you can select maybe another drawing view or whatever. I like to live here. I like to live here with the specified sheet properties because I can go in and manage it a little bit better. I feel like it's easier to work with. And then once you grab that, now what that's going to do is by default is going to use the first view that you input into that print. So when you go grab your first view to pull into that print, whatever that part or whatever that file was, assembly part file was, that's the data it's pulling in by default. So we'll get to how we fix that later. Now we're going to go in and we're going to do drawn by, right? And we're going to say, okay. And my name automatically appears. It's magic, right? So I did all that information over in the model, and now it can automatically populate in my print once I do this. And if you use print templates, drawing templates, you set this up in the background and it always works. You don't have to go in and do this anymore. It's just a little bit of pain up front to last forever and create a lot of good, repetitive, clean data. Okay, so just out of curiosity, what happens to prove that we did that? Now, when we want to come out of this, we do have to right click and go back to edit sheet to come back to the sheet. But we see we're out of that. We're not modifying it anymore. If I go back to, not that. If I go back, let's go here. Go back to my part. And we'll just go to file properties and change it from here. We'll look for my name. And instead of my initials, maybe I really meant that to be my full name or my first name, not my initials. So I'll change that to Adam. Oh yeah, let's do Bradham. Bradham. I like that. Let's go with Bradham. Good job. Thank you, Brad. There's Bradham. And we did that. We fixed it. Now let's go back to our drawing and see if it updated. Well, of course it did. It updated like magic, right? We didn't have to go back and fix it there. It populates that metadata through all of our documents, so we're not worried about repetitive tasks or redundant things we have to do. So once we get there, we're looking at this, but remember we talked about how to change those, the views or whatever we wanted to with the file properties. So let's grab another part real quick. Let's open this for just a second. Let's grab this guy for just a second. All right, so here's this other part. I'm gonna bring this into my file. Come over here. Nope, sorry. Here, there we go. This is right. Grab this. Well, let's refresh. It might crash on me. This happened earlier.
You blow it up. It's not a SOLIDWORKS presentation like that.
Yeah, it's not a SOLIDWORKS presentation without at least one crash, right? It locks up right here. And what it did is because I had this file open earlier, it was thinking that that was still there. But for whatever reason, it kind of locks up and it wasn't.
Yeah, you broke it.
Yeah, I broke it. So, in a matter for saving time, I'm not going to go into that because that is the last thing I was going to show in live. Basically, what you do is bring another file. You got a different view. You're going to right click and go to your drawing properties. So right click, go to properties. At the bottom of that properties window is a drop down that will let you select default or whichever view you want. When you select that view and you hit it and then you hit OK, it's going to let's see if I can crash this real quick. It's going to change that what's going into your link properties, right? So sorry I wasn't able to do that last one, but for sake of time, we'll move on. That was the last thing I was going to illustrate live. Let's jump into our PowerPoint real quick. And so one thing I like to do towards the end of my presentations is give out some notes. Like say if I was you and you was me, you were giving the presentation, I was trying to write some stuff down, what would I have written down? One of those is going to be that metadata is info. If I didn't know what metadata was, that's the first thing I'm writing down. That it's basically just information about whatever the file is. Info before opening a part. It's nice to know that I can get that information before I even open it. And why that's so important, and I pointed this out before, is because what if you got a part that's going to take 10 minutes to open, right? And not for the sake that I need to go use the bathroom, but for the sake of, do I really want to open it fully resolved? Do I want to open it lightweight, or do I want to open it in LDR? Hopefully people in here know what LDR is. large design review, it'll take a model that opens in 10 minutes down to about 30 seconds to a minute, right? And so it cuts out a lot of functionality. It's basically giving you a silhouette and not giving you any of that real data about that information, about those files. It's just a pretty silhouette is all it is. But then from that point, after you've opened it in 30 seconds to a minute, you can do a selective open. I like to use volume select for myself to volume select a certain area, select the files that I want, and then go do that selective open. It will render those and fully resolve just that information and save me a 10-minute open down to maybe a 2-minute open for just a little bit of stuff that I needed to modify. So knowing the information before you even open in the part gives you clean, consistent data. Everybody's going to be on the same page. If you have certain vendors you're using, everybody's using the same vendors. Nobody getting a wild hair and going using Mo and Joe down the street that we didn't approve, right? Customize it to fit your needs. It's very customizable. You set the information, the data up to what you need in your facility and run with it. And then you can automate the print data, not date. It is the date too. That's a misspell on my part, sorry. But automate the print data. The last thing I like to do on my presentation is give a call to action because I like to see people take something away from the meeting, even if it's just one thing. But I want to say just take the time to set it up in advance because again, you're going to reap the rewards later on. Save yourself time in the future by reaping those rewards later on, and then be the lazy one, right? I got to put a little clarification out because in my presentation yesterday when I was live, I said that, what's the name? Not Bill Gates. No. Anyway, I said the wrong computer guy's name yesterday. And it wasn't him because I kind of threw this quote out on a vague little thing because the comment came up. And so I said the wrong computer name. It's not that guy. It is Bill Gates because Bill Gates did say, I choose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will find the easiest way to do it, right? And I had a professor tell me that once too, and in class, he said that's what people like because time is money, money is time. You find the laziest person to do the hardest job, they're going to find the quickest, most efficient way to get it done because they want to be done with it, right? So as long as they're not sacrificing quality, of course. And then, of course, John Wooden said, if you don't have time to do it right, when will you have the time to do it again? Right. And with that, I will leave it open for some questions.
We're Bananas, a co-pilot for mechanical engineers, a tool built to save time, effort, and money without disrupting how you already work. Bananas integrates directly with your existing CAD and PDM tools, like SOLIDWORKS and SOLIDWORKS PDM. We've packed in more features than we can show you in just 3 minutes. But here's a quick demo. Let's say you've made a change, maybe to the model, the drawing, or both. You check it into your PDM system and create a new version. That's when the magic begins. Right after check-in, Bananas automatically compares the new version with the old one. You'll get a notification letting you know your compare is ready. Just one click and you're in. Need to come back to it later? No problem. All your compares live in your personalized dashboard alongside tasks, design files in workflow, and more. Inside the comparison view, you'll find smart insights, overwritten dimensions, missed details, items that don't comply with your standards, even suggestions to improve your design. It's like having a second set of very sharp eyes. Want feedback? Easy. Share the comparison with teammates, leave comments, request changes, and track every note. It's built for collaboration, and yes, there's a full audit trail. Also see every change highlighted and categorized. What was added, deleted, or modified. Small stuff like view shifts, form, fit, function edits. We don't clutter your view with those. And what if a change was unannotated? No problem. Our 2D overlay shows added lines in green, removed ones in red, right on the drawing itself. Simple, visual, and easy to understand. Ever struggled to track BOM changes after renumbering? Not anymore. We align text to updated numbers, making BOM comparisons clear and easy to follow. And for 3D models? Just hit Compare. Get a side-by-side view with all volume changes clearly marked. You can comment and annotate right on the model, and yes, your notes stay in place even when you move the model around. While reviewing, you can instantly see who approved what and add your own approval in one click. Want to share? Export the changes as red line drawings for both versions. You'll also get a detailed report that clearly shows what changed. Perfect for handing off to a colleague or supplier without endless explanations. And here's a feature that surprises a lot of people. Bananas can even write directly into your CAD software, automatically placing revision symbols on drawings or generating change descriptions ready to copy and paste. Because nobody wants to send a drawing back for a missing triangle, and nobody wants to fix it either. And that's just a sneak peek of what Bananas can do.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started on the second half, the better half of the presentations. Sorry, I had to do that. Sorry. All right. All right, so we're going to do my top tips and tricks. I'm going to try to truncate this down a little bit, give myself some time for everybody to kind of sit and chat and stuff afterwards. So we'll go through some tips and tricks here for everybody. First, we'll do an introduction, then we'll dive into the presentation, and then we'll do question and answer afterwards. So if anybody is interested, feel free to ask question and answers as we go. All right, first and foremost, my name is Brad Meador. That's my government name. Most everybody calls me Tank. That's my writing name. I'm a project designer at Altec Industries. I work in the crane and digger derrick department in Roanoke, Virginia. And with that, I'm also the Roanoke, Virginia SOLIDWORKS user group leader. I'm the Mid-Atlantic user group committee lead. Much like Jose and Adam, I represent the committee, represent my Mid-Atlantic states to SOLIDWORKS themselves. I'm also a SOLIDWORKS champion, certified SOLIDWORKS expert. And because sleep is for the weak, I have other hobbies that take my time at night. I'm a live event producer. I actually work for
local rock and roll shows where I'm at, and I'm also a Virginia certified pyrotechnician. So when I get back from this trip next week, I start building fireworks for all of our local municipalities for 4th of July season. So again, what? We need pyro now? Well, Steve, so yeah, that's true. But I have friends that shoot pyro out here, and to become certified in California, I have to work and mentor under somebody for 10 years. And so it's a little bit harder to get. So what? Yep. So we're going to go ahead and get into tips and tricks. We're going to have some fun with it. This I would say requires audience participation. Feel free to stop, ask questions, comment, yell at me, say, hey, I can't hear you. You're a dummy. I don't care. Yell. I might even learn something. Also, I promise not to make too many dad jokes, puns, or add too many GIFs to the presentation. Maybe. So I'm going to start my timer here so I can make sure I don't get everybody bored. This month.
Home at a decent hour.
Yeah, that's right. We got to get home at a decent hour. I'm old. I got to go to bed. All right, let's go. All right, so the basis for every SolidWorks part, assembly, drawing, whatever, is a sketch. So we're going to start with those. We're going to start with our sketch tips and tricks. And before we start anything sketching, we're going to go through actual settings that I recommend for your sketching to make your job more efficient, make your parts more rock solid, and make everything just better all around as a SolidWorks user. So the top section here, auto rotate view to normal. So I initiate my sketch on a plane. It kind of comes up. Initially, SolidWorks starts it as kind of an isometric view. We select that plane. It flips it directly normal to you so you can start sketching. One less click to do. The second one down is a bug, not a bug, but a bug I put in all my machines for all my co-ops or new hires. This use fully defined sketches will not allow anybody to exit a sketch unless it is completely defined. So if you know somebody who exits sketches and there are things that are movable, flexible, anything like that, this forces them to actually play nice with the rest of your coworkers and do it correctly. So what we're going to do, we'll kind of dive in there and kind of show them as well. Also, before I get to this next section, how many people are using 2022 SolidWorks? 23? 24? Okay, 25.
You got a question. What about fully defining text?
Fully defining text. You can actually fully define text by finding the little point at the text origin and dimensioning there. We have to do it as well. All right. So if you're in 2024 or 25, you'll see that there is a preview sketch dimension when selected. We'll dive into that and kind of showcase a little bit of that as well. And that's keeps you from having to exit your line commands or whatever commands you're trying to do and enter into a dimension and back and forth. So we're going to make it a little bit, make it fast here. So we'll start with a new part here because all new parts start with a sketch, or all new parts start with a sketch. See, we're in kind of a front plane. It's kind of to us. Auto flips to us in dimensions. We'll go to our settings here, go into our sketches, and we'll kind of show all the stuff I have set up here. We can cut them on and off. I'm going to use fully defined sketches. I'm going to cut that on, force myself to play nice. How many people have ever heard the Toby Snar song, Fully Defined All the Time? Okay, there's not enough people that need to hear this. Do I need to play it for the next 5 minutes? Okay. I encourage you to go find that on YouTube and watch it because it is it's an earworm. It'll get stuck there, and then you'll be singing it in your office, and your coworkers will hate you. So, all right. So I've got my box here. I can come in here and initiate a dimension if I'd like, but with the preview dimension sketch selection there, I can click on the dimension that just shows up, type in what I want, hit the 8 there, escape, click on my next one. The dimension is previewed there, kind of shows you what you're trying to do. I'll show it back again.
Deepop's on YouTube.
Oh, deep. He's got it. fully defined sketch with only 3 clicks. But we're gonna delete that one out. I'm gonna try to exit out of the sketch. Another little tip: hit the D key, bring that exit sketch feature right to your mouse button, and now it won't let me get out of there because there's parts moving. So if you have users who love, okay, come on, who love to leave dimensions undefined or underdefined, force them into playing nice. If you're a CAD admin, force all your users into this. It'll drive them crazy for about a week until they learn to play nice. And then we can move on with actually creating the rest of our parts. Inside of this, you'll see our shaded sketch contours. I have them currently on. You can cut them off. They're user selectable, and they're also deployable in your settings. This right here tells me that this is a watertight shape. Means I have all the lines connected. It is ready to go. I can actually move this around by selecting, if I undefine the centers here, I can grab inside that area and move all the dimensions around in there if I'd like, but we don't want that right now. So we're gonna Control Z back, because Control Z is my favorite command ever. Use the D key to bring that back, exit my sketch. Jump back over. All right. Go to dynamic mirror and some dimensions here. So now I've got a plate. I want to do a cutout, but I want it symmetrical. At Altec, we love doing parts symmetrical because, you know, you never know if somebody's going to bend it correctly or if it's going to be put on backwards or, you know, whatever. But we're going to create a center line here, fully defined center line. I'm going to click on this center line, hit my S key. Another tip and trick, S key brings up your shortcuts bar, which also has a function search in it. And I'm going to turn on my dynamic mirror. Now, I'm not sure if you can see that very well on the screen there, but there is a double line at the top and a double line at the top and the bottom. Those are indicating that we have our dynamic mirror on. So now I can come in here and start drawing my lines of the shape I want to create across my part, and it'll continually mirror those parts over. So as long as I keep that command on, it'll keep doing the mirror part function. So I can continue modeling it symmetrically with only having to draw half. Now there's a caveat. If I delete one, it doesn't delete the other. Feature enhancement, maybe, we'll try. I go in and hit our trim command, and I trim another thing out of it, it doesn't go back. So it only works really on sketch item creation. So if you know you're going to be working in symmetry, you're going to be doing some revolves or whatever, you can do that. We can work with the dynamic mirror. Now to take it off and to get out of there, we go back into our S key again, go to our command search at the bottom, type in dynamic mirror, and I want to show where that's at. I can come over here and poke the eyeball. It's going to pull up a bunch of things. It's going to show me where it is and point to it with an arrow. If I want to go navigate to that, I don't necessarily want that. Maybe I want to put it on my shortcut bar. With SOLIDWORKS 2024 and up, you have this little plus key there, plus, and it adds it directly to there. So I can go back in and find it again without having to go search for it. As you can see, the double lines are off. This is a sticky button, so we can turn that off. Well, now that I've got my stuff, right, we got to fully define my sketch. So we're going to come in here, we're going to throw some dimensions in. Go over our center line, but you know, you're not going to measure from the center line on this part. You're going to measure from edge to edge. So you pull it up, hit your shift key, drag it over the center, and now you've got a full dimension across both those pieces, both those lines. We'll show it again real quick, just kind of show how easy it is to do. Hit your shift key, drag it over the center, and now you've got a full width dimension with only having to click over the center line. SOLIDWORKS is smart enough to infer that this center line is just there for reference, and I only want to dimension the actual hard entities there. All right. So I've got a user who loves to draw a bunch of lines and trim everything back out. One little tip and trick, extra one that I like is notice how I'm clicking and it's sticking to the mouse. If I want to end it, it's either hit escape, or if I want to leave the line command on, I hold the left mouse button down while dragging my last line, let go, and it disconnects from the actual line chain. So we'll do that again. We'll do a single line. You hold the left mouse button down, and it'll allow you to do individual lines one at a time, rather than clicking and having the chain happen. Well, now that I've got all these lines in here, I got to figure out what to do with them. So we're going to initiate my trim command. I love power trim. It allows me to kind of go through, click the left mouse button, draw my lines, but oh, I went back over it. Let's go back over this line. There it goes. This screen is too sensitive.
I think it works a lot better when you're not on a 2K monitor. Pixels are a little.
Yes, it does. But your shift, if you're doing power trim and you know you want to extend something, you can hit your shift key on that power trim, and now everything power trim becomes power extend. So as He-Man says, I have the power, I now have the power to extend. Now I can continue with that as well by clicking the line I want to extend. And say if this one here, I want to extend that line, I can click, hold the shift key and just drag it straight out. It'll keep me from having the line move left to right, up, down. It will just extend it to wherever I want. So again, we'll do that again. Pretty simple. Click your shift key and just drag out. We can click, drag out, and that gives you your shift, power extend, and a little another snippet of extend there. Because I have users who are terrible at modeling, I will not give them this hint, but I'll give it to you. If we have a bunch of stuff that's really swoopy stuff for splines and stuff, we'll go ahead and delete a bunch of this out of here. Has anybody tried to dimension a spline before? Yes. Pretty impossible, right? Well, we'll just go ahead and tag this back down to make sure that it is fully defined. Yes, this monitor is very touchy. All right, we're going to throw some splines in, but I'm going to do style splines because it actually helps me out. So I've got a spline here. Kind of hard to dimension that spline, but I can dimension the control points. But instead of taking the time to dimension the control points, I can right click, go to fully defined sketch. Again, this is only if your users are already doing fully defined sketches. If you're not, this is kind of a little dangerous tool. It'll auto dimension your parts in there and put the relations in for you. So a little bit dangerous if you're new at working at it, but just a little tip to get you out of there quick. Also, got some lines here. You want to go back over your line. Now you've got your arc from your line command without actually having to go and initiate an arc or a circle. You just go back over your start point and go from there. We'll skip through here a little bit to give us some more time. Go to parts. So now that we've got our sketch tips and tricks out of the way, we'll go over to parts. And a new feature in 2025 is using the hole wizard, but basing it on a previously created sketch. So we'll open up here. We'll draw a sketch. We'll delete this one out just to give us a fresh canvas here. Draw us our sketch here. Draw some radial lines because we want to make sure our holes are in the right spots. Dimension it. And now we can initiate our hole wizard command with that sketch activated. And it already picks automatically the endpoints of your sketch. But you can also go through and say, I don't want that one at the bottom. You can skip it. find your sketch, is now absorbed into your feature. Now, along that line, while we're in here, we'll go ahead and do our pattern, kind of some pattern options here. Make sure we have some time for everybody to play on those machines. We'll initiate a circular pattern. Going to bolt this thing down. Got lots of holes in there, but I found that in the assembly, this hole specifically has an interference. There's something that's hovering over it. I can't put the bolt in the hole. Well, I can come in, edit my feature itself, go to instances to vary at the bottom. It's a little key at the bottom you can put. Select the one you want to vary, modify the instance, and then change your dimension to, let's say, 70 degrees, and move that one, shift it either way to make sure that wherever you have this instance actually plays nice with your overall assembly. So we'll kind of throw it out there this way. You can do this with assemblies as well as parts. So assembly features linear patterns, allow instances to skip, instances to vary. We can go through that as well. I actually have a really good one here. Camshaft. Camshaft, I've actually made one pattern to make all the cam lobes, and they're all in different angles and they're all at different spacing. So instead of having multiple patterns to get the cam lobes in the right way, I've got my linear pattern with modified instances and modified each of the lobes plus or minus a few degrees to make sure I get the lobes at the right separation angle. So when you're in there doing patterns, play around with the options. Make sure you get ahead of the curve and just try some new things inside your part patterns. All right, so we'll jump back into our chamfer example. Now, I'm making this part, this one doesn't have holes in it, but my machine shop says, I don't like this radius on here. I want a chamfer instead. The radius is just too hard to machine, or it's too time consuming to machine. We can right click on your fillet in your feature tree. You can convert that to a chamfer automatically. It'll convert the feature and the name directly back into a chamfer, but you can also convert it back to a fillet. Now, one caveat with this is you can't go from a standard chamfer back to a fillet currently. It's not an option. I wish it was. But again, future enhancement we can submit in for like the SOLIDWORKS top 10 every year. If you start with a chamfer, you can't go to a fillet. But if you start with a fillet, you can go to a chamfer and back. Little Easter egg, but a little thing you can do to make yourself more efficient in modeling and modifying your parts. All right.
Well, I've got a question from Vic. It
Okay.
says, could you then add those cam lobe instance dimensions to a design table to make it easier to modify?
Ooh, I'm not sure.
So those varied instances, I don't know if our Go guy knows, but the varied instances of the cam lobe, can you add those to a design table, do you know?
I'm not sure you can do that because all it does is individually move things around. I wish that'd be something we
That
could
would be
do
pretty
later.
cool if you could.
That would be something interesting to try. I've already touched on some variable patterns here, so we'll kind of skip through to make sure. Enter to repeat last command. Pretty common to continually have to repeat commands over and over again. So if you do, use the enter key. So we'll jump into some assemblies here, and we will pull up one of our nifty trucks here. It should be open already. There we go. This is one of our AT48 units. You might see these out here working on your internet,
Or if you
or
went to SolidWorks World, it was there.
if you went to 3D Experience World, we actually had this specific model on the floor. But tab, you hold tab down and hover over things, it'll start hiding parts. We'll zoom in a little bit so we get some more granularity here. But if you shift tab, it'll bring it back from back to front, so you can bring it back in to what you need. We'll go ahead and hide those back again. But control shift tab. Oh, it's not working now.
It's not working at all. is it?
There it goes. Nope. There. Maybe it. Control shift tab. There we go. You hit control shift tab, and it shows it back up in, well, it's not working on this model. So let's,
Take it down.
yep, it's a lot of information. But shift tab will show things from back to front, and control shift tab will show everything that you've hidden in a light blue color, so you can click them all and bring them back in. Let's see if I can bring one up real quick. That'll actually showcase that. Wish this zoom thing would stop showing up in the part here. I did. There we go. We'll open up another one real quick. It's a little bit better of an example, just so that I want to make sure everybody can see that. I hate when my demos don't work, and I'm going to make it work. So we'll do our tab, hide the parts we want to hide. Shift tab, we'll bring them back. Hide them again. Control shift tab will bring them back in the blue transparent color, and you can pick the ones you want to showcase back. So just an example to kind of go along with that. Now, assembly visualization and performance evaluation is one of my go-tos when I'm working on parts. If I come across a model that's a pain in my butt, it's slow, it's clunky, it's giving me problems opening, and the first thing I do is come into my performance evaluation and figure out what's my problem. Which one of my files inside this assembly is giving my problem? Looks like this cylinder number 1 here at the bottom has a lot of graphics triangles. It could be slowing me down. It could be that this Carter carburetor, which has the larger open time, could be giving me a problem. Or I can pull this up and use my assembly visualization tools, go to performance, and then sort by my total graphics triangles and find which of my parts are overly complicated, giving my computer the issue or causing it to slow down for having to calculate too much. So we know that cylinder 1 and this Carter carb are overdefined. Actually, this is the bottom half. I'm not sure. I'm guessing it is a French translation. But assembly visualization and performance evaluation are 2 main go-tos when I start troubleshooting new components or new assemblies that have been given me to other people, especially these body guys do. All right, we've already touched on pattern options. We'll go back in here. All right, who knows about the R key? Bring your recent parts back in. Okay, the R key will allow you to bring all the recent parts that you have here. You can even pin them to the top. So if you know you're going to be using something over and over again, you can pin it to the top. But for this one, I want to drag this one in. I can come in and actually drag these parts directly in from your R key so you can pull them in over and over again, find the ones you want. So I want to replace that air filter with this K&N. Pull directly from there.
Prasad on Zoom says he learned about the assembly visualization at World this year.
Yep.
It changed the way that he works with assembly.
Yes, assembly visualization can change the way you work with assemblies. All right, another one I like to show, I didn't get to show it this morning, was copy with mates. Let's pull up truck here. See if I got something that has some. You don't have any hardware in this, Adam.
No, we don't model.
Oh,
We don't model hardware.
what do you
Not unless
mean?
it's a weld nut, they got to weld it in place.
All right, we'll do this. We'll just do this eyelet here, and we'll copy that one. We'll delete that one out. All right, so copy with mates. You select the part you would like. Right click, copy with mates. You click your little arrow here. And notice that it's going to pull up all the mates that actually hold that part into place and allow you to pre-select the next instance of those mates. So now I know I've got a part there. We're going to get a coincident mate here, and then a parallel face. We'll use the edge here, and we can continue inserting parts over and over again. And it allows us to put them in with the mates already attached. So instead of having to insert your part, initiate the mate command, and to mate the part, you can just copy the one you have and copy the mates over as well. All right. Another feature that came out in 2024 was auto repair mates. You right click on your mate folder or your mate that you have issues with, and you find the auto repair feature at the top. And if it can find a solution, it'll find the solution. It says this one right here, 3 of these mates were corrected. It does this by finding a face where an old face used to be. If it can't, it gives you a warning. It says, hey, not all of them were done. Please go back and try to manually do it. All right, and jump in. Now we've got our parts and our assemblies done. Let's go over to some drawings here. Flag notes are a real big tool for Altec. Flag notes allow us as users to tell our machine shop, hey, this note is important. So we have a triangle here on our number. We right click, we double click on the triangle and say, I would like to add it as a flag note bank. Now I can come down, right click on my balloon that I want to add the flag note to, add it to stack, pick the balloon I would like, and link it down there to it. And it allows you to even showcase and show what that note says in your feature itself. So if you're modeling something, you get a big part and you want to see what that note is, you just hover over it and it'll tell you what that note means. One of my earlier presentations was on the shift button, but if you have stacked balloons or you want to stack some balloons, you hold shift, you can unstack them, or you can restack them using the shift key. If you have dimensions that you want to move between views, hold the shift key. Move your dimension between your views. So if you have a dimension, you like it, it's in a really cluttered view, you've already got it set, we can move it between them. You can also do things like you can copy, let's see here. You can do a format painter on this as well. Come on now. Select your dimension you want to format to and paint it to the other one. So if you know you've got a dimension scheme or a tolerance scheme you want to copy, you can copy and paste it around your print easily that way. And then, dimension auto align if you would like to do that. Some people do, some people don't. But my biggest one for any user across any skill level is use SOLIDWORKS RX. It is in all of your installs. This will allow you to check your diagnostics, record any problems that you're seeing, and it'll also allow you to keep up on some of the system maintenance. It also has a reliability tab, which will show if you've closed SOLIDWORKS out or if it's crashed, and it'll show you over a 30-day time span or whatever day you would like. So use your SOLIDWORKS RX, go in, kind of do some diagnostics. We'll kind of take a second here and we'll go over that because I got a little bit of time left. Hit that. SOLIDWORKS connected. The SOLIDWORKS RX is at the top with the question mark. So here it is. Here's my reliability. It tells me, okay, let's hover over that button there. Looks like ended by task manager. I crashed it automatically on that day. On this day, it looks like it closed normally. On this day, it looks like this one ended by task manager or event, so it crashed. And so you're having problems with your machine, your problem with your install, you can actually reach out to your CAD admin, show them this reliability, and say, I'm having a lot of problems. Please help me. You can use this as a good starting point to troubleshooting your problem. So in the interest of time, we'll just go ahead and go to my call to action. Let's just try one thing. Try one thing that I talked about today. Explain it to your coworkers, or at least give them a little tip and trick here or there. And then feel free to reach out with any questions. You all are in contact with Jose. He's got all of our contact information. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to reach out, ask questions. And with that, any questions from anybody in the audience or in the chat? You know, feel free to stump the chump.